The Sahel is changing. What began as scattered sparks of rebellion has grown into a wave of resistance sweeping across West and North Africa. Different nations, different battles, but one destiny. From Niamey to Bamako, from Tripoli to Ouagadougou, whispers are spreading. Whispers of a shift the continent has not seen in more than 50 years. Each leader on their own disrupts the old balance of power. But together, they could ignite a transformation that could redefine Africa's future. And every step they take sends shockwaves through Western capitals, because the question is no longer if Africa will rise, but who will lead that rise and how far it will go. What if Libya's enormous wealth and the Sahel's unstoppable military awakening merged into one united front? What if the dream of a powerful African bloc, once dismissed as fantasy, is quietly taking shape right now? Tonight, we reveal a story the world does not want Africa to hear. A story of two leaders walking on separate paths that seem destined to converge. Because if these two forces align, the Sahel may no longer be a battlefield. It may become the center of a new African order. This is the awakening, a new alliance in the shadows. Point one comes from a legacy of power. The other was forged in the fires of revolution. Yet their trajectories are echoing toward each other like two storms nearing collision. Saif Gaddafi grew up in a Libya that dominated African politics. He watched his father, Muammar Gaddafi, fund liberation movements, challenge global financial systems, and push relentlessly for a United States of Africa. From childhood, he understood a lesson that cost his father his life. True independence demands sacrifice, and those who demand it become targets. Captain Ibrahim Traoré learned the same lesson, not in palaces but on the battlefield. His rise in Burkina Faso shattered old colonial networks that once controlled the Sahel from the shadows. In a matter of months, he became the symbol of a new generation. A generation that refuses to bow, refuses to negotiate its dignity, and refuses to let foreign powers dictate its destiny. He speaks a language Africans have long waited to hear. Sovereignty, courage, sacrifice. Point two different stories. One identical enemy. Across Africa, young people whisper the same question. What would happen if Libya's vast resources and the Sahel's revolutionary leadership aligned? Western analysts fear the answer. Because the power Saif represents, oil, gas, water, and gold, combined with Traoré's ideological fire and regional alliances, would create something Africa has not witnessed in decades. A unified bloc capable of resisting Western dominance on every corner of the map. And the signs are already emerging. Diplomats report unusual meetings between Sahel envoys and Libyan tribal leaders. Intelligence memos warn of coordinated anti-Western sentiment spreading across the Sahel belt. Online communities tied to the Old Green movement celebrate Traoré's rise as if the spirit of 2011 has returned. The winds are shifting, and when Saif and Traoré's ambitions eventually intersect, the old world order will begin to tremble. Some say it already has. While Libya struggles to rise from the ashes of foreign intervention, the Sahel is experiencing its own political earthquake. A new generation of unapologetically sovereign leaders has taken center stage. These are not men who fear sanctions, isolation, or military threats. They are men who believe freedom is not given, it is taken. And at the core of this wave stands Captain Ibrahim Traoré. In less than 2 years, Traoré has become more than a head of state. He has become a rallying point for millions of Africans who dream of dignity, ownership, and a future built on African terms. Under his leadership, Burkina Faso expelled foreign troops, reclaimed its natural resources, and emphasized loyalty not to foreign powers but to the Burkinabe people. His courage rippled outward. In Mali, Assimi Goïta followed the same path. In Niger, General Abdourahmane Tchiani severed long-standing military ties with France and expelled foreign bases. In Guinea, Colonel Doumbouya echoed the call for African unity and self-determination. For nations, one rising front, a new chapter in African political awakening. But even the strongest movement needs a foundation. This is where Libya re-enters the story. Because while the Sahel Alliance has military strength, popular support, and political momentum, it lacks one critical pillar: economic power. Gold and cotton can sustain a nation, but they cannot transform a region. Oil can. Oil builds armies, funds infrastructure, and anchors independent economies. And Libya owns the largest oil reserves on the entire African continent. Traoré's revolution has fire. Saif Gaddafi has fuel. And now, for the first time in decades, the winds of the Sahel are drifting toward Tripoli. This is the Pan-African equation. Western political circles analyze Traoré's rise, but they ignore the deeper truth. An equation older than colonial borders is forming. African nations are rejecting foreign control, confidently, openly, unapologetically. Not through diplomacy, not through polite negotiation, but through decisive action. In Mali and Niger, transitional governments broke the long chain linking the Sahel to Paris. In Burkina Faso, Traoré tightened the brake, expelling troops, nationalizing resources, and rebuilding pride that had nearly vanished. But Libya remains the missing key, the sleeping giant. Because Libya is not just another nation. It is the bridge between Africa and the Mediterranean, the holder of vast petroleum reserves, the home of strategic ports, and the keeper of a legacy the West desperately tried to erase. A legacy connected to Gaddafi's dream of African unity. Imagine a Sahel bloc with determination, and Libya with resources, ports, and the symbolic power to unite tribes that haven't stood together in years. That is the equation Western capitals fear. Not because it is violent, but because it is achievable. And even though Saif Gaddafi and Traoré have not appeared publicly side by side, their messages are moving in the same direction. Africa must control its resources. Foreign military presence must end. A new continental order must rise. Across the Sahel, young people chant slogans Gaddafi once shouted at the UN. Across Libya, frustrated tribes look south, searching for examples of stability and sovereignty. Across Western capitals, intelligence agencies quietly admit that a coordinated Pan-African realignment could end decades of influence. Destabilizing for whom? Strengthening for whom? That is the question they cannot control. Because the next phase of this alignment is the most dangerous for foreign powers, the economic earthquake. For years, foreign corporations extracted African wealth under the shield of foreign troops, foreign agreements, and foreign-backed leaders. But suddenly, the old system began collapsing. Burkina Faso expelled French troops. Mali ended military cooperation with Western forces. Niger tore up defense agreements that had stood for generations. Now imagine Libya, Africa's richest petroleum reservoir, aligning with this same movement. Saif al-Islam Gaddafi brings oil, ports, and leverage. Traoré brings alliances, popular legitimacy, and the Sahel's united front. Together, they create a balance the West has spent 60 years trying to prevent. Because if Sahel nations gain direct access to Libyan ports, they no longer depend on Western-controlled trade routes. If Libya's oil wealth circulates within Africa instead of flowing outward, Europe loses a major energy lifeline. If gold, uranium, and oil move through African channels, not foreign ones, the old global order collapses overnight. This is not theory. It is a blueprint already forming. But no transformation comes without resistance. Western governments have spent decades making sure African nations never coordinate at this scale. And the moment Libya and the Sahel begin moving in unison, a silent war will emerge to stop them. Because this is bigger than politics, it is the battle for Africa's economic soul. What follows is the continental shift. Africa is undergoing something historians will one day call the Great Realignment. For decades, African decisions were shaped in Paris, Washington, and Brussels. But today, the winds are blowing in a different direction. From Niamey to Bamako, from Ouagadougou to Tripoli, African nations are no longer asking for permission. They are acting out of necessity, sovereignty, and pride. Whether the West admits it or not, Saif Gaddafi and Ibrahim Traoré have become symbols of this continental rise. Gaddafi embodies the memory of a powerful Africa. Traoré represents the awakening of a new one. For the first time in decades, Africa's northern wealth and the Sahel's military strength are moving in parallel, not through treaties, but through shared resistance. Across universities in Ghana, youth forums in Kenya, and military academies in Ethiopia, one question is spreading like wildfire. What would Africa look like if its leaders truly united?